the reality is the tough stuff is the good stuff as well.
It is
the
totally.
hard yards are the good yards.
Yeah.
And it's definitely the same in my business. You know, all that. At the time it can feel like horrendous when you're going through a bad patch, but then some of those are the best experiences you can ever have in your life.
Totally.
Welcome to the Swifty Podcast, inspiring positive change through design, innovation, and technology.
Okay, welcome to the podcast today. We've got a friend of mine, Jon. Jon is a Olympic ambassador of ours and also all-round awesome guy. We're going to talk about his story today. He's now a triple champ. Is that right?
Yeah.
Triple champ?
Yeah. Well, I've
triple world champ.
Well, I've been a double world champion, so yeah, okay. I've got quite a few world medals, and I've been a double world champion. But as it stands at the moment, I raced last weekend. It was an international race, so that was a good one. But it wasn't at World Championships, not this time. World Championships in January.
Okay, so double world champ, double world triple champ.
Yeah.
I mean, awesome accolade there.
I've done a few bits. Yeah.
So. Jon is a friend through actually our kids. So our kids go to, in the same class.
We live around the corner from each other, don't we?
Live around the school. We just live around the corner from an Olympian, a Paralympian. So amazing stuff. Been following you for a long time now, and our kids are friends, and we started working with you probably about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, probably 3 years now. So
we basically just said, look, get a scooter, have a scooter, see how it feels, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, and they make it around. I mean, when I first saw one, I was like, right, I need one of them straight away. So fantastic. Yeah.
So Jon is a member of the British cycling team, and you specialise in a specific category in paracycling. Yeah. Which is, can you explain what that is for people that wouldn't know?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome.
It's a great shout. No problem. And I'm a C5 paracyclist, which means of the para categories, I'm the least disabled of the categories, if you like. Okay. Typically, you'll have people with sort of missing hands or lower arms missing or whatever, or sort of damage to the lower legs. So in my case, I've got a dropped foot, and I focus on track racing, racing 4 kilometres on the track. So that's the one that Bradley Wiggins used to do, where he'd start on one side of the track and someone would start on the other side, and 16 laps and off you go. So that's my sort of speciality. Although I like all types of cycling. I'm a mountain biker, sort of really. I say really, I like mountain biking. That's what my passion is, if you like. But my strengths are that kind of hurt locker stuff. Get going in 4 minutes, just hanging on and and going for it. Yeah,
we've been to one of your events, and it's super exciting. Yeah, super exciting here in the Velodrome here in Manchester. But you travel around the world quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah. All over. I've been all over the show now. Yeah, it's been. I've been on the team for about 6 years now. So I think the furthest away I've been to Rio, racing in Rio. I've been to South Africa, racing for Great Britain and for the British cycling team. Lots of Europe as well. I've been to the States as well. So and I'll be the World Championships is in Canada next year in January. So I'll be over there, and I mean, all being well, if I can get selected to go to Tokyo, that'll be that'll be the culmination of all this sort of effort really for the last
Amazing. So we've got you on not just because you're amazing in your sporting achievements, but you're a businessman as well. You run your own business. Been doing that 15 years. And you're also a family man like me. You got kids and stuff. So what I'd like to do during the course of this podcast is dig a little bit deeper and kind of figure out what makes you tick, what makes you achieve what you've done, because it's tough enough just running a business for me, and also being very successful in sports like you are is also another, almost like if I was to do it, I'd need another Jason to do that, because I don't know how you squeeze it in and fit it in. Your discipline and your dedication is just off the charts in terms of what you've achieved, but to do all three is really quite remarkable. So understand for our audience, understanding like how you're able to deliver that and how you're inspired to deliver that is all fascinating and really interesting.
Absolutely, it's something I've worked very hard to sort of piece together.
And the balance is hard,
time.
right?
The balance is really hard. Yeah, and the way you frame what you're doing to yourself is also fairly key for me.
And the hours you must require training wise, you know, and then mixing that with, you know, being successful with your family as well, with having kids and being dedicated to them is a tough one, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, part of the sort of danger of kind of living a sort of quite an intense life like that as well, and trying to juggle so much. Well, there's lots of dangers, isn't there? One is not doing anything properly, sort of juggling master of all trades or jack of all trades, master of none, and then actually being in the moment when you sort of, so like say, you know, if you've got your training, you've got work to do, then when you do spend time with your kids, are you with your kids or is your mind somewhere else? And I think that's something I've worked on fairly extensively, really. I think in terms of how it came about and how sort of it came about that I was sort of juggling all the things, I suppose you'd have to go back to the beginning of why I started racing again and how I got onto the British cycling team, really.
Yeah, let's go through that.
Yeah, that's cool. So when I was a kid, I was a mountain bike. I used to race mountain bikes and cyclocross as well, and I got to a very good level sort of during my youth. So mountain bikes, I mean, they started when we were kids, really. Think about it. So you know, BMX is when we were young kids, but then mountain bike started when we were probably in our early teens.
Yeah.
So
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. So I went, you know, like everyone else, I went out and got a mountain bike, and my teacher had said to me in the classroom, because I was buying a speed off my pal in the classroom. I thought he was going to tell me off, but he said, "Oh, what's it for?" And I was like, "For a mountain bike." And he said, "Oh, well, you know, do you race?" And I didn't even know there was mountain bike races, but he told me where there was one. So I went home, like, pestered my dad to take me to a mountain bike.
Where was your first race?
It was in Manly Mere, you know, Sale Sports in Chester. They used to have mountain bike races there.
Wow.
So, and they used to sell orange mountain bikes as well, which was cool at the time. So, so I went to that. I was 13 years old, and I got absolutely battered. Then sort of lived on my mountain bike for a month, went back, and I came third. And then I think like the month after I won, but it was under 16s, I was only 13. So it was obviously I had something for it. So then I just spent the next like 5 years just being ferried all over the place by my dad and my mum, and you know, started mountain bike racing and cyclocross racing as well. Wow. I ended up riding for various local bike shops, and I rode for Kona as well, which was a great one. I mean, especially when I was like 16, you know, a truck arriving outside with free bikes and all that, it was mega.
Kona Fire Mountain was my first mountain bike.
So I'd
saved up all summer for it.
I had one at one point. They had one for me there. Well, they have a Kona cooler and a Kona Sex 2 they gave me as well, an odd one. So yeah, I think my favourite mountain bike was Pace though. I had a Pace at one point. That was really cool. I wish I still had it.
Nice.
But I raced all the way through sort of that my youth really, and I went to the World Championships in 1995. Shows how old I am now. As a junior, rode for Great Britain. I did all right. I had a bit of an overwhelming experience.
Was this still MTB?
Yeah, mountain bike racing. Yeah, so it was a cross country and downhill world championship. So I used to race downhill as well. So it was downhill and cross country I did. I think during that time I got a bit of a virally type of infection, and then there was foot and mouth around about the same time. And really, from my point of view, I wanted to be a professional cyclist. Yeah. But I wanted to be a professional mountain biker. That was cool. Road riding wasn't cool. Yeah. The velodrome had just been built. I had accreditation to do it, but it wasn't. You couldn't see the pathway that's there now. Right. So I think probably didn't have much patience at the time. I went to the Worlds, took a year out, got a part-time job, and ended up just with a full-time job. And once I started earning money, that was that. I carried on cycling, and I'd go through sort of fits and starts of racing. Right. I went from cycling into work. I kind of got myself a job at a bank.
Is this like early 20s now?
Yeah. Well, no, even late teens. I got myself a job at a bank. I got myself qualified as a financial advisor. I was like 19. Oh wow. And I went to work in Manchester for my old boss. I worked at Halifax, and I went to work for my old boss. And I was 24 when we set up our business. So I put the same kind of competitiveness, if you like, that I put into my cycling into work. And quickly kind of, found out what I needed to know to set up my own business. Unfortunately for us, we set up as mortgage brokers, which was great because we went from, I was 24 when we set up, we got quite big quite quickly.
Oh, right.
So it was like 20 staff and all that.
Wow,
But then the credit crunch kicked in.
Oh, shoot.
So yeah, it wasn't, we had a bit of a battering through that period, to put it politely, because it was all new business and we had a big infrastructure. And then, there was a big queue outside.
Well, it was a very different world back then with mortgages, right?
Yeah, it was crazy, absolutely crazy. So so we went through the mill fairly big time with that. And I broke my neck during that period. My daughter was born. So I had a few real big kicks over that period. I think those kind of, certainly the credit crunch, breaking my neck, having my daughter within a few months of each other, I think off the back of that, I became quite resilient once.
You mean breaking it physically?
Yeah, I broke my neck. Yeah,
I actually thought you just meant.
Oh no! One day, literally, there was a queue outside Northern Rock. I went on my mountain bike and I broke my neck. And,
oh my gosh!
So and then my daughter was born. Well, my daughter was born just before that. She's a few months old when I broke my neck.
Oh no!
So that was a fairly intense time. So I think the particular credit crunch that sort of hung with us for a while. And cycling wise, getting back to the point of cycling, I always sort of thought my best years on my bike were in front of me. I'd always sort of parked it, but I didn't think I'd ever got to my physical peak, if you like, as fit as I could possibly get, because I put it down was like 15 or 16, 17 really. So I knew as a bloke I could go better, but because that time was so intense, it wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I sort of overcome all those challenges and we were starting to rebuild again. So I started to race a little bit, and my son had been born then as well at the same time. So I started to do a bit of cyclocross racing. I got myself a downhill mountain bike, which I'm not sure was a good idea in hindsight. And I started to do some uplift days, which involve you getting dropped off at the top of the mountain. So you'll go to like an uplift place, you get dropped off at the top of the mountain, bomb it down the mountain all day, which is mint. Yeah, like a great crack. You'd love it as well. But on that particular day that kind of changed everything, I got to the point on this course where I did a jump and I didn't quite land the jump properly. I cased the jump, so I landed, take off and landing, front wheel went on the landing, went over the handlebars, and I sort of threw my bike away, which was great. But when I landed, I landed on my feet, but my left leg just folded. So it just folded at my knee. So, like right angles as well. My wife says it like a flamingoed my leg, so it was just like, it snapped. So I knew I broke
it from below the knee?
No, I broke it at my knee.
Oh, no.
So my knee went, if your knee bends this way, my knee went that way.
You did all your tendons, everything?
No ligaments, no tendons left. And luckily I had the artery left. Otherwise I'd have died there because it was right at the top of the hill.
Wow.
But I severed the perennial nerve, which controls the dorsiflexion in my foot. So, there's a bit of an ordeal at the top of the hill. I had to kind of get part walk down the hill, and then they put me on a stretcher, and I was limping along, and then they put me in a helicopter and flew me off. And at first they thought I just broke my leg, but when they investigated it properly, they were saying,
wow,
you're not going to be able to ride your bike again. I was like, right, I'll get a track day car then. I thought I'd get a caterer and start racing cars then. And the guy was like, you're not taking this seriously. I was like, I am. I'll get a caterer. He was like, no, I'm sure you. Kelly's like, yeah, he is taking it seriously. That's just the way he is.
But were you married at the time?
Oh yeah,
Kelly?
yeah.
Okay.
Married to Kelly. Georgia was young-ish, but not too young. Ted was like 11 months older, so he was young.
Okay.
So getting the news then that
I've always in my mind thought that it was quite a long time ago.
No.
So it's actually
2012.
Oh right, not that long
at all.
No,
not at all. So this is 2012. So I get told now that I can't ride my bike again. Ted's young. I think I had like the perfect storm then of a few things. One, the credit crunch was over, so we were over that, and I'd lost a lot of years, like I was saying before. But that whole period, it was like, if I do this and I do that, I might be all right. If I do that and that, it might be all right. So you wake up every day, and all you think every day is like, do all these things, and hopefully we'll be all right.
Yeah.
So like I had a block there of time where it just kind of went without me really being in the moment. Then Ted was born, and you know yourself. You're thinking all the things you're going to do with your kids. And for me, I'm going to be playing football with him. I'm going to be playing racket sports, which I was doing all these things at the time. I was snowboarding, windsurfing, and I had all these kind of plans of what I was going to do with him, as well as I was going to get back to racing and see how fit I could get.
Yeah.
So when I was, I couldn't walk properly anymore. That was a big hit to take, and quite a bit of soul searching to do at that time. And bearing in mind, this is the summer of 2012, so I was laid up with a plaster cast on my leg watching Bradley Wiggins win the Tour de France first,
right.
Then watching the Olympics, then watching the Paralympics,
yeah.
which was really cool. I was probably drunk for the whole, most of that, just watching it and thinking, wow. Oh God. When the plaster cast had been removed off my leg, the first thing I did is I got my bike out of the shed, jumped on my bike and rode around the block, and it was all right. My leg was all right.
So they repaired all the tendons as well?
Tendons got screwed back into the bone, ligaments. I've got medial and lateral ligaments. I've got no ACL or PCL anymore.
Wow. You can get away with no ACL.
You can do, but to be honest, my foot just hangs down anyway. So without a foot brace, my foot, it's not like I'm going to be able to run around on it anyway.
Right.
Because the lasting damage, although the damage to my knee, the damage is to my foot, because there's no message going to my foot to be able to pick my foot up anymore.
Right.
So I can push down, but I can't pull up with my foot. So unfortunately, it means that, ironically, get my bike ride around the block, I'm all right. I swapped my downhill bike for a cross-country bike, started to smash around the water park and started to ride a lot really quickly before I could really walk.
Yeah.
So I had my first sort of appointment with the doctor, and it was like, I can't ride a bike.
What was Kelly saying at the time when you got on your bike straight away?
She was just happy I was doing something positive, because rather than sitting there getting drunk, it's like, there's a fine balance in me. It's either, she's much rather have the kind of, the constructive, even if it is a matter of me jumping on a bike, because I wasn't going riding off mountains. I was just going out and getting fit. The thing with it was, from my point of view, it was quite insular then, to be honest. Not that I didn't care about what anyone else was thinking. I was kind of going through a bit of a bit of soul searching, trying to get myself together. So when I found out I could ride my bike, there's also that element of somebody says you can't do something. It's like, well, I'll make my own mind up whether I can do something or not first. Yeah. It's all well and good what somebody tells you, but from my point of view, I needed to make sure that was for myself, that what I could and couldn't do. And I found that I could ride a bike, and I found that I could ride it quite quickly. So timeline wise, snapped my knee in May. Operations, I'd had a couple of rebuild operations to my knee, a nerve graft, and then plaster cast came off my leg in sort of end of September. Then I jumped on my bike straight away. Then my sister had done some research on the internet, realised that I could ride para. So it qualified me as being a para.
So it wasn't even in your mind at that time?
No. I didn't realise. I didn't think about it. It was still quite close to having watched the Paralympics, but I realised I could be a para rider, and I just thought, I'll do that then. So so I decided I'd go to the Paralympics straight away, and I'll do that then. And I knew I would in my mind. I mean, it's taken a bloody long time, but it was, as I say, it's like the result of the perfect storm of, like, it kind of pacified me physically. I had the sort of will to kind of crack on and do something. Yeah. I think to set an example for my kids and everything else, because the prospect of being some kind of overweight, disabled 40-year-old is just not it. It isn't. No, I can't. Not a chance. No way. Not in a million years. So it was like a catalyst to be like an extreme. The extreme opposite of that. Which I sort of methodically went about doing it. I phoned up the velodrome and said, right, I'm affiliated at the velodrome, and I think I'm a power rider now. And they just so happened the classifiers were in that month, and which they're very rarely there. But I went in and got classified, and then I went to a Paralympic sort of test day. I did a power test, but bearing in mind I was still in rehab. My power was crap really compared to what it is now. But it showed enough for them to go, got something here. So I was on the development squad by January, the British development squad. So I got given my tracksuit for British cycling while I was still under the same consultant.
Wow, so that's like just over 6 months.
Yeah. So I was there, and I went for my last sort of knee appointment with a guy that told me I couldn't ride my bike, and I was like, Told you I could. Told you. So
check out this jersey.
I was like, full GB kit at the time. Told you. And then sort of built from there. But it has been a very long, hard journey because. Back to your question about managing time, the kind of the pathway over that time. First of all, I'd say I had no respect for parasports. It was a lot harder once I got to international racing than I ever imagined.
Right.
And, things like, and I think as an able-bodied rider, I had no idea, but, I can win the Masters, my age group pursuit, relatively easy.
Yeah.
And I'd probably I'd probably win the world championships as well. I'm not able to do that because I'm doing para as well. I'm around about the right pace I need to do that, but then to go and win the para world is a much higher level,
Right.
and that's the kind of misconception I think I probably had to start with. So I had to build and build and build. It took me years and years of training before I was anything like the kind of level where I could, it'd be fine nationally. I was like the national champion after 1 year, but then I'd go to a World Cup, only 15 to turn up, and I'd come like 9th.
Right.
So it's like, right, okay, this is a much higher level.
So the jump is huge.
It's ridiculous, yeah. So the level of para sport, certainly in my category, is super duper high. So when it came to being on the British cycling team. To start with, on the development team, so the requirements on me weren't too much, and I was still heavily involved, and I still am in work. But what happened was, after a year, they said to me, right, we want you on the full-time squad, and it was like, right, okay, this is great. So I went out for, I was actually on a bike ride with my coach, and he was saying, right, okay, this year you'll be doing this, and all I was doing was counting how many weeks off work it would be, and I got to about 8 weeks. And honestly, I had a physical reaction. I nearly fell off my bike with anxiety because I thought,
how am I going to do it?
Yeah, because I never had any time off. Probably, you're running your business. I never took any time off.
Yeah, me too.
I was a control freak. I did everything myself. So I had to, the crossroads. Then you're either going to do this or you're not going to do it. And then what I had to do is find a way that I could pass over responsibility that I'd never pass over, and I never would have done before, and be really brutal with my time, really not waste any time. I made sure I had an office in my garden so I could work from home, and I'm renowned now at work for, being as brutal, the most brutal by a mile. There's 3 partners at our firm, and the other guys are sort of typically like you would be. I had no choice. I had to just pass stuff over, and even if there's a catastrophe at work, but I've got to be racing my bike, I'd have to just leave it and crack on, and somebody would deal with it. And the thing I did find is that with the right people around you, obviously it empowers the people that work for you as well, and that's worked fantastically well as well. And the only other thing I do find is over time I've become more in control. It was like a learning curve with the cycling, because I've raced before, but once I got to a certain level, I was a novice really in terms of fitness. So I've had to sort of get schooled in terms of how best to work my training to suit my, to overlap my diary with my diary, for like. So luckily I'm in a position where I can control how my training works, and I can control how my work works. So I'll color code my diary with cycling and work, and I'll be very brutal about the timing of stuff. So if I'm in an important part of my cycling cycle, I'll probably have no meetings at all. If I'm, I'll speak to people over the telephone, but this is very important, I'll go. If not, I just won't. So I'll just cut all the sort of fat out of work that way. And the same with training. There's no point in training for training's sake. It has to be sort of purposeful. And then I sort of psychology wise, I found that it's easier through periods where, especially when it's very intense, just to sort of have a list of things you will do and things you won't do. So if it's a build up to a decent, something that's important, and it's, let's say, 8 weeks or whatever way, I'm not going to any kids' parties, I'm not going out for any meals, I'm not going to any weddings, and basically it's just a standard no. There's already an answer no. Right. So it's easier, isn't it?
And everybody knows that.
Expectations are already set. The only things I'm going to be doing are the 3 things, and it's family, training, and working. And then, somebody talked to me about the kind of, thinking about your mode in your car. So, you put it into sport mode, you put it into this
Drive,
mode,
neutral.
and I think that the way I think about the three sort of areas of my life are very, when everything's running sort of smoothly, that's exactly what it'll be. But the making sure then that there is no overlap, and whether it be just switching my phone off completely when I'm at the track,
right?
So I'm not, or even I've got a spare phone just in case it gets really intense at work, and I just throw my work phone. Chuck it at home and don't even take it to track. Or like the various methods that I've kind of come to just block that out, so I'm just there in the moment. And it's the same with the kids. Just making sure that I'm constantly booking in quality time with them, so that and I leave everything else behind and prioritizing that. But that simplifies things. So if you think about managing all these things, if you think, actually no, life is as simple as just work, just family, and just training, then it's not that complicated anymore. If there's an automatic note to everything else, and then obviously there's a bigger picture. This is something that I'm working towards in terms of going to Tokyo. That makes all that sort of sacrifice worth it, because it means you're not spending as much time maybe with your friends. You're not doing sort of other things that you might want to do in normal life.
I think what's really interesting about doing these podcasts with speaking to individuals like yourself is that there's a similar kind of pattern that presents itself with successful people, and I've noticed it myself, and I'm still grappling with how to explain it, but it's I always try and explain it in the sense of it's like trying to train like a way of thinking in terms of dealing with stuff. And once you start like the way that you've just explained, you've got three things, and it's like, right, I'm going to focus on that, and everything else I'm just going to shut out of my thinking time. I'm not going to give it any time.
Periphery is gone.
By being kind of like aware of that, I call it kind of like a mental construct, or like like when you have so like when you're younger and you're a little bit more inexperienced in business or whatever it is, and you have when everything goes wrong and you just have an awesomely terrible day, and it feels like everything's gone out of control. And when you're younger, you kind of go through several days of that being but then once you've been through that a number of times, it's almost like building a mental pathway to dealing with trauma.
Definitely.
And once you've like trained yourself to think like that, it makes everything else kind of slot into place. So it's like building like a rutted path, so a way of thinking.
It's resilience, isn't it? I think the you're right, and I think the sort of the same kind of parallel applies with. I mean, that's like the same, isn't it? With work, running your own business. There's an element of you want to be. You don't want to be inside your comfort zone too much, do you? You want to be outside your comfort zone. You want to be striving to do different things, and and sometimes it's I have it a lot with cycling. You get to something that's fairly punchy race-wise, and there's a lot riding on it, and to a certain extent you've got this kind of creeping and thinking, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing that? But then once you've done it, then you want to do it again. It's the kind of the
and you get the reward.
Exactly,
it's
or even just that feeling, that feeling of feeling outside your comfort zone, like you might have done for something fairly minor when you were younger. When you get older, you get more resilient to get to that feeling. That's like it's almost like there's a draw to feeling like that, isn't there? So you have to go quite far to kind of get that, to get that hook that you get. So
I'll give you an example, because you the way that you explained your story a little bit before, you glossed over breaking your neck, and for a lot of people that's a massive thing. And I thought you were just meaning I broke my neck, like when you say, I broke my neck today doing this, doing that.
I mean, again. So this is like a crazy day. I went out mountain biking. I was out in Hayfield. I was out with another couple of guys, and I was on a cross country mountain bike, which is quite an unforgiving sort of old school bike. So not dissimilar to your Kona Fire Mountain. And going across the moorland, and there's like a puddle, and I pulled my front wheel up to go through this puddle, and I was going quite slow. I rolled back into the puddle, and I went over my handlebars, and I landed on my head and just broke my neck. I broke C3, so just the one below Christopher Reeve. So most people end up with like sort of nerve damage forever from it. Anyway, I ended up sat there, and I said to the guys I was with, I've done myself some serious damage. You just knew? Yeah. So, but I ended up walking off the hill, which was ridiculous really, because I had an unstable fracture to my neck. And then the ambulance picked me up there, and I said I didn't want to lie down because I felt like my neck was unstable. Anyway, they drove down the road and he sat me up on this bench seat, and the seat went backwards. It was like, so I was like, ooh, I caught myself. Anyway, I got to the hospital. They X-rayed me and they cut all my clothes off, and that was it. It was like I was the most important person in there. And at first I got told I was going to be in hospital for 10 weeks and all the range of it. And we didn't know whether they were on whether to put halo on my head or whether to make a special collar. Anyway, I got away with a special collar that they put together for me, and somehow, I mean, after about, I don't know, I was in hospital for a few weeks, but after about 3 months, I got away without any lasting damage to myself from a broken neck. And then I went and broke my leg and had a lot of nerve damage. So it probably got me back in the end. But it's definitely a fairly hardcore experience. But that would be the same with any journey. I mean, once it's done, isn't it?
It makes you stronger, and that's what I was alluding to, because you've mentioned quite a few things on your story that most people would be like, oh my goodness, that's awful. But for you, it's like you're dead and calm about it because you've been through it, and so you've got this kind of like mental pathway where you're able to just deal with it, and it's not going to affect you too badly. And because you went through your second accident, you've gone through it again. Yeah,
definitely. I think that one builds into the other, and I think there's something to be said for scraping yourself off the floor and of going again. It kind of does. There is that kind of thing of just sort of rebuilding and like, what am I going to do now, and then sort of building yourself back up and going from there. I think how you frame things to yourself, and what's an opportunity or what
there's always a positive.
There is, and I think the thing with it is you get to a point where you'll always do good in the end. There's an understanding that if you're really honest with yourself, that over time, I've proved to myself that I'll always come good in the end, because I'll make sure I'll do everything I need to do to make sure it'll be okay. Yeah. That's
a very similar kind of mindset that other guests have shown. It's like that. It's not like an ego-driven thing. It's more like how's the best way to explain it? It's like just a insatiable appetite to just try hard for yourself and work hard.
Definitely.
And I'm the same. I would describe myself the same. It's not about trying to say, there isn't any real awards or medals in my industry, but on par. And that's why I think, like before the podcast, we were talking about how many medals you got, and last year's medals you've got in the bag in the shed, right? Yeah. Because it's not about the medal for you.
No. I mean, I think again, success is, for both of us, success is the journey, isn't it? So the reality of it is that we are successful now because we're on a journey that we're controlling our own journey, and we're happy with what we're doing. And fine, you might be striving for financial success or for success with whatever it might be, or in terms of pushing physically as well. But the joy is not at the end of the destination. Like, it might be for a second, but the problem is with that is once that's gone, what are you going to do now? Yeah. The journey is where the success is, and I think once you probably need a bit of age to understand that. You need to kind of I think once you get to sort of our ages where you understand that better, and we're in a fantastic sort of situation to be able to be successful, really, because if you're deemed successful, healthy, happy, family, all the kind of usual drivers, then that's great. And then pushing yourself is part of that. The success is pushing yourself. It's not necessarily the achievement that goes with it.
Yeah, well, that's why we started. One of the reasons why we started the podcast was to just have these conversations and try and share that message, because I think most people from the outside, when we talk to them or we do events, they just see the kind of the rosy bigger picture of like going on the website, seeing a bit of press, whatever, and they don't tend to ever see the kind of the nuts and bolts of how it works in the behind, and this platform gives us a chance to kind of like expose a bit of that.
And the incredible amount of hard work that goes into and determination and perseverance, and
massively.
All of that stuff.
Massively.
But like the reality of it is the tough stuff is the good stuff as well.
It is
the hard yards are the good yards. And it's definitely the same in my business. All that. At the time it can feel like horrendous when you're going through a bad patch, but then some of those are the best experiences you can ever have in your life.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've had I remember one specifically was when we, in relation to Swifty and the business, we opened up our distribution partner in South Korea. And in South Korea, they have a very different BSEN testing regulation there. So our BSEN testing, so it's like the tests that the scooters have to go through to make sure they're safe. They don't accept those tests in South Korea. They have their own tests that they have to. So you basically submit your samples and you've no idea what they're going to test them to, because it's not the same. So they kind of like make up their own test in some ways. And our partners out there sent us back the report, and the report was supposed to arrive while I was there. We'd already signed up the whole agreement and everything and decided to work with these guys, and I think they already had stock. And so the last, or they'd ordered stock, and the last part was to get the certificate. So they didn't have stock. They had to get the certificate to import it. Anyway, the report didn't arrive on time, and I ended up getting to the airport. And as I'm in like the lobby waiting for the plane, I'm checking my email, and the report comes through on the email. And I remember it's going to be something that's burned into my brain forever, because I opened this report and the first thing I saw in the report was our frame snapped. And I was like, oh no, what's happened? And I remember specifically like getting a cold sweat and thinking, this deal's going to go all wrong. Oh no, what's happened? And I remember just collecting myself and going, no, relax. The scooters are safe. They've passed it'll sort it. There's got to be something that's gone wrong. My younger self, 5 years ago, would have like had the most awful next 24 hours on a plane trying to get back to the UK. But I took a big deep breath. I mentally kind of put it to one side, got home, and it turned out that the testing that they'd done, they'd put something like 400 kilos on the footplate and like broken the scooter. And it was like, it's just an unreasonable amount of force that's being put on there.
Sumo wrestler riding around on it.
Or like three adults. And anyway, so they did the test again. It passed with flying colours. It was fine. But it's like, I remember distinctly getting back and thinking, wow, it's like, you know, going through some hardship and going through that again.
And you got like, it's funny, isn't it? Because the kind of, I think over your lifetime, there's going to be points where you're pushing your mental capabilities and yourself into a position where you'll be feeling mega anxious with stuff and borderline mental illness at points when you're going through trauma or whatever, and whether it be I'd certainly think that some of the mental stress with me business-wise, when we were picking our business to pieces, we're in the office, myself and
post 2008.
We just sat there going, right, what we're going to do, and we'd be like, right, we're going to have to get rid of that person today, we'd have to just one by one, we just got rid of everyone until there was only two of us left, and we just went and worked in office together and kind of made it up as we went along. It was very, but then those times were brilliant. We got to the point where everyone had gone in the end, and the getting rid of everyone was far worse, because they were always all right. They were always all right fairly quickly, and you're thinking, oh no, the responsibility of these people. That was a real anxious. If you want to feel anxious, letting people go and thinking about the responsibility of them was real bad. That was real bad. Tremendously sort of stressful. But we ended up like going to work in the Northern Quarter, playing chess in the morning, thinking, right, what we're going to do today? What are we going to do? We're like sold our cars, getting to the point where we like trim everything. Okay. Nearly we had a few properties we were kind of borderline going to lose those, and it got pretty heavy because it got as bad as it could be without going bankrupt. We just got away with not going bankrupt really, and it's super solid now. But that whole like you say, that feeling that was consistent for me over a period of time, and I'd say that kind of trauma can be worse than physical trauma. I think that stuff was more probably more stressful. And as I say, like how you deal with it, and how dark it gets for yourself in your head, and how how far you let it get down. It's tough, isn't it? But it is. It's also, I think it's part of life, and it's good for you, isn't it? It is good for you, and I think it's something that you can help. Certainly, younger people, if you get an opportunity to sort of, help mentor somebody that's going through some tough times, and it's great to be able to kind of call on that experience and, to kind of give it as an example and say, it's all right, everything's all right, isn't it?
Well, that's why this is so important, because there might be someone watching who fancies having a go at what you've done, and this is like a ticket for them to go, wait a minute, get off my backside and go and give it a go.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think I'll probably be the same for both of us, like the idea of not going off and challenging yourself and doing your own thing and setting up your own business would have been, I'd be far happier having a business that was going through all sorts of turmoil and being a master of my own destiny than I would, going and working and sitting in an office all day and doing that. It's not, we're both the same, aren't we? That isn't for us. It's just not, we're not that type of person. So, it's not an option, because that really would make me miserable.
Yeah, totally.
And, that's, so, if you're going to do it, crack on.
Yeah, totally. Wow, we've covered loads of material there. What I wanted to, we talked just before the podcast a little bit, and you were talking about kind of some of the other deeper ingrained reasons for you doing what you were doing.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd want to cover at all?
Yeah,
you want to go into it? Because I think there's so many components that go towards like the trajectory that you go on to.
Yeah.
There's your own personal ambition. There's like doing it for your kids and your family.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going back to Ted and him being so young at the time, when I first had my plastic cast removed, I was sort of learning to walk again and limping around. Ted literally was copying me. So he was learning how to walk at the same time, and he was limping, copying me. I'm thinking, oh my God, oh no, so again, my idea of being like this kind of super dad was like,
we all want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like massively undermined. So that was like a massive driver to start with, and it, he grew up watching me race at the velodrome, and it's like it's had a hugely positive impact on him and my daughter.
Well, you're going mountain biking today.
Yeah.
You're going off to North Wales.
He's a bit of a ripper. So
I've seen him. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's decent. So we'll be doing that. So that that was that sort of box ticked really. I think anyway, when you're getting older, you've kind of got this balance. You don't want to get old quickly. So it's like the good thing is about this sort of full-time sort of training. It's almost like the fountain of eternal youth. So that's good. So I want to carry on doing that as long as I can do. It's certainly good to be as fit as I've ever been at 41 now.
Yeah.
But the other
I'm 40 in January. 40 in January.
Well old.
I know.
No, you're not. You're 2 years younger than me. It's fine, mate. It's all good. At least you've still got
I'm actually probably the fittest at the moment I've been for 10 years.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's because I've just recently, in the last 6 months, taken on starting jiu-jitsu.
Oh, right.
And I had my instructor, Adam, shout out to Adam, here on the podcast about maybe 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I'm actually doing my first tournament on the 7th of December.
God. Right.
So it's like,
wow.
I'm going to start competing.
It's pretty scary stuff.
So I'm taking the leaf out of your book.
Nice, mate. I like
I'm going to try.
Masters, I like it.
So I'm the category I enter is Masters 2.
Yeah.
And it means
and you'll
that
just be about to go. Oh, your Masters 2 is like the year of your 40th birthday?
Yeah, I'm 40 in January, so now I'll go up to Masters 3
Masters
then.
3 next year. It's nice. Well,
there's only one more category after that.
Next year, mate. Wait till next year, and then you'll boss it, hopefully.
It's
it's great, isn't it?
So I'm the fittest I've been for 10 years, and I almost feel like it's a great time to do it.
It is, and the thing with it is, the difference you can make to yourself over this period of time now is you can either sort of control your fitness and and be on it and stay young and and in good nick, or not really, and there's like you can see the way that the divide, ridiculous, you can see the difference is profound. So for me, there's no it's a no-brainer in it to keep yourself young. It's a great sport as well, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
I've almost given up drinking as well. Like I literally don't drink anymore.
That's good.
And it's not been hard at all.
I do think I don't know if it's an age thing, that because I don't know.
My tolerance is gone. I don't have any tolerance.
Mine's not very good anyway. But then again, I could drop into sort of personality type. I could sort of start drinking every day, and then just get to the point where I've drank every day for 3 weeks and think, what are you doing? And then I just stop again. I'm not really comfortable with. It's easy for me not to drink or just to drink all the time than it is to kind of. half drink. But then when I say that, I couldn't be an alcoholic because I get fed up with it.
Yeah.
You know, so I drink for a block and then be like, oh no, you know. So it's not. And then even then, I'm not like I can't drink 10 pints a night or anything. You know, a bottle of red's perfect, and that will be fine.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about your diet. Like you're training hard. How many times a week do you train? Is it every day you're training?
I'll have one rest day a week generally.
Okay. So talk me through kind of like your diet and your nutrition. How important is that in your training?
It's very important, but you know, I thought there'd be some kind of revelation when I first sat down with a nutritionist. You know, you're like, all right, you know, that's one session. You were British cycling, thinking this is it. This is going to be the ticket. We're going to find out, and it's not. You know, it's basically that, and it's some common sense stuff. But you know, you want to eat. If you get a plate of food and it's lots of different colours on your plate, then it's probably going to be very nutritious for you, unless it's like tomato sauce. You think about it, you know, beetroot. The more multicolour it is, then the better it's going to be. It's all the natural vitamins and minerals. You know, carbs to fuel your session, protein to recover from your session, and some carbs as well. I think for my case, if I'm doing big road miles and I have to put more calories in me, I have to eat while I'm riding as well, because that's not just about the session, it's about recovery. Loads of fluid. You know, if you go to the loo, you want a clear pee sort of thing. You know, that's a good idea of hydration. But there's not there's no sort of holy grail when it comes to nutrition, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another as well. I know from my point of view, like through the winter I tend to carry a bit more weight because I'm well if I carry a bit more weight, and then I can trim down and get super lean after that. But in what I do, it's not we're not going riding up mountains, so there's no point in like going after every last little skinful, so you're like there's nothing on you, but then find that, you know, if you go and get cold, you get a cold, or you know, you like your reserves are kind of, for me, that they intertwined between, you know, if I'm carrying a bit on me, then I tend to be a bit weller than if I, you know, a bit more robust than if I'm not. So it's kind of,
you try to keep your body fat at a certain level. Do you measure that?
I can do. It's something I've got as a resource, but I don't.
It's more like a feeling then.
Yeah, I don't really overthink it. Yeah, at the moment I'm not comfortably sort of. I want to lose a few pounds, so I'm losing a few pounds. I'm just kind of working on it, but I won't go bananas for that because I do that much training anyway. If I eat like a normal person, I get skinny. If that makes sense.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, just because there's so much, I do that.
Well, your metabolism must be just through the roof all the time, right?
Well, I think so. Yeah. Well, I mean, I burn a lot of calories. I mean, I don't know if I do 17 hours of exercise a week. You know, but some of it's really punchy. Yeah. You know, it's a lot, isn't it? You know, it's enough, isn't it? Really, you don't. You know, I have to make sure I eat lots to kind of sustain that. Really.
Have you ever played with your diet? Have you ever done anything like keto or anything like that?
No, I've done periods where I've gone caffeine free and dairy free and stuff like that for periods of time. Because sometimes, you know, if you get to a period where your stomach's just not playing ball, which I think sometimes you just get to that point. Especially if you have to overeat because you're not overeat, sorry, but load a lot of calories. I think sometimes your body just goes through phases where it just doesn't like certain things. For me, if I stop eating bread. If I don't drink any alcohol and I stop eating bread and I don't eat any cake or anything sort of sweet, then I'll start to lose weight very quickly. Oh, really? Generally, if I have wraps and stuff like that.
So carbs are super important to you.
The only thing is to get a balance. I still, you know, don't want to go do a session at the velodrome and be rubbish, and it really it's just fueling your sessions and fueling your body. I mean. I don't think there's any kind of anything particularly revelationary in terms of diet, other than, you know, slow burning carbs in the morning. I mean, I have porridge with blueberries and you know, some cinnamon and some honey in the morning for breakfast, and then maybe have a banana mid morning, and and it goes on like that really.
Sensible stuff.
It's not nothing bananas. I say that though, if I'm going to go and go on a training camp in Mallorca, I'll just fill my fat face. I'll get up and eat everything, but then I've got my bike for 6 hours and, you know, burn 3,500 calories or more, and then, you know, it's relative, isn't it?
Sure.
So and I think that's the key is with your diet is it's fine if you're like a consistent way that you are, but in terms of the exercise you do. But with me, I'll start doing a track block or a more intense block, where it's just all very sort of punchy efforts and not as many of them. So you're not burning as many calories.
You'll
but
need
your body,
like sugars then.
your body's like reeling, but you can't eat like you could do if you're just doing an endurance block.
Right. Okay.
So, but your hunger's probably there, the same, or even worse, because you're shocking your body.
Okay.
So if you go off the back with like a big volume block where you're doing loads of volume, and then you go into one of these intense blocks, you've got to be careful that there's not an overlap in your diet between the two, because then you'll put a lot of weight on, because you're starving, and but your volume's gone. So instead of doing a 4-hour ride, you're doing I don't know, 40 minutes of effort on the track, and it's still punchy.
So does your weight go up and down quite a lot?
Mine goes, I've got about a stone.
What are you? What do you weigh kilos wise?
88 at the moment, but 85 is probably good for. I mean, I've been down to 83, and that's massive for a cyclist. But I'm 6'3", and before I was cycling, I was like 100 kilos.
Wow.
So I was my normal kind of windsurfing, mountain biking, kind of do a bit of everything. 15 odd stones, about a good weight for me. But I'm like 13. If I sit about 13 and a half, that seems to be good for cycling. But I mean, I'm a thin man for me at that.
Yeah, you are. You're really tall, but I've seen you on the track, and you got massive thighs. Your legs. Yeah,
well, I mean, this is the thing as well. You've got like this kind of paradox as well. So I'm like, I got my bike for 3 hours, and I'll go to the Cosmos in Sale, and I'll be lifting 300, like leg weights, 300 kilos, on the leg press. So you're constantly trying to make your legs
300 kilos.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So
that's massive.
So it's you're kind of pulling your body around, aren't you? A little bit.
What's your the ratio between like strength and conditioning, weight training, and then on the in the saddle?
I only do 2. I do 2 gyms a week, but then again, I'm like, you're not a sprinter, and you're endurance, but you're more.
In the middle,
there is that strength. You're more endurance than you are sprinting, but there's definitely that element of strength. And for me, with my leg,
so you're doing long sets then.
I tend to do reps of 10. But then what I'll do with my left leg, because my left leg's 3, because my left leg's so sketchy, I'll start off with like leg extensions, and because my left leg. It relies on my quad massively for the sort of stability in my knee. So I've got this weird thing that if I don't do leg extensions for a week and a half, then my leg starts to go really sketchy.
Is a leg extension like a leg press?
No, you sat on the bench where you're outwards, so you can just all quad.
Right, all quad.
So and I need to keep that just to keep my leg going, my left leg going. So the gym's like the best friend of my knee, really, which is the opposite of what you think. So I'll go in there and I'll do a set of, I'll do a very light set of leg extensions, then pile the weight on, and then I'll always do an extra 3 sets with my left leg only, and the same leg press, because my left leg's a bit smaller than my right leg. I'll do leg press with both legs, and then I'll do leg press with just my left leg as well. So I do a sort of
really
positively kind of give my left leg more than my right leg to make sure I try and keep the balance up as best I can do.
Right. And you can leg press 300 kilos.
Yeah.
What about extension? I've no idea.
I don't know. 300 kilos is not. I mean, I'll do 3 sets of 10 with 300. Wow. It's not like.
It seems really hard to me.
I mean, it is, but it's not. You go to the gym. Anything. It's like with jiu-jitsu. I'm sure.
It's like more than 3 times your weight.
I want to start doing jiu-jitsu again. Should we?
It's so good, man. It's so addictive. Massively
I can imagine it is. So technically, in the thinking side of things as well. But it's tolerance, isn't it? You build up tolerance. I'm not like dead strong. I'm not sprinter strong. They lift loads. They probably lift that with one leg, like the likes of Rotherham and people like who I sort of train with. They're monsters, absolute monsters. But then if we go out, I can still go and ride for 5 hours. Pretty decent there.
We were really lucky to go. So we've got a host of Olympic ambassadors now. There's yourself. There's also Charlotte Gilmartin, and she's short track speed skating.
Yeah.
And
I should be quite strong.
Yeah, so we went and saw them training before they went to Pyeongchang, and for the Winter Olympics, for people that don't know. And we did a little video of her training, and their training regime's amazing.
Yeah,
like what they do 3 times a day in the gym, and she goes home. And when she was training, because she's recently retired, and she'd have a sleep at lunchtime.
In the day, yeah.
And I was like, wow.
I mean,
to recover, to help recover.
That's one thing that the trickiest time management bit for me is actual proper rest. Full on rest.
Proper sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
How is your sleep when you train?
I'm all right in the evening. You know, I can sleep at night, but like sleeping in the day, sometimes you need it, and that's quite hard. And quite often my body will just be like, right, you're sleeping whether you want to or not. You know, so I'll just go in and I'll just have to go, right, okay.
Is this like a half an hour, 40-minute kind of nap?
Yeah, whatever you need, I suppose. Structuring it in and kind of trying to predict in advance when you're going to need it's quite tricky.
Yeah.
But, you know, but it is integral to kind of recovery and to get good, to planning quality sort of rest is pretty key. The where I battle then will be my mind, and it'll be the same with yourself. And it's like, okay, right, well, in the day when work's going on, you know, go and bury yourself, and then like go, you know, and then just go and sit there and do nothing or whatever. You know, it's very hard not to, you know, to stop your mind ticking away. So yeah, that's a tricky one. I've got better at it, and I think when it gets really intense, I'm better at it because your body just kind of does it itself. You've got no choice in those kind of scenarios, but to kind of switch off.
The whole mental side, like mental awareness, mental kind of conditioning, the mental aspect of any kind of sporting or business game. I mean, the last couple of years, there's been a great deal of awareness, encouragement, hasn't there? And it is fascinating how it is becoming more and more important in all areas of life. You know, even just having kids, like just going through like the act of having a child, just not only destroys your sleep, of course, as everyone knows, but mentally, like no one talks about that, or no one did when I had my kids.
You can see them, can't you? Once you you know, you see people with young babies and they're just in a different zone.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a completely different world. Like,
totally, and it's such like a shock.
Yeah. It's sort of it's almost like a survival mode. It's a tricky balance. That the rest and recovery is the hardest one to plan in, really. Especially when you know you're going to need it, and it's like, you know, right, Thursday afternoon I'm going to do nothing. You know, that's hard. Because I want to get up and do stuff anyway. You know, every day, always.
Yeah. You an early riser as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'd say not silly early, but I'll be up at 7 and buzzing around.
Yeah.
But I think if I wasn't training so much, I probably would be up earlier.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
you try and get those hours in.
Yeah, I'm generally fatigued though. You know, so you know, generally I'm carrying some kind of level of fatigue because there's no day. You know, even one rest day, you know, you're still carrying some fatigue. So, you know, I'll do. You know, I'll probably ride my bike for 6 days, and 2 of the days I'll do gym as well. So I'll do the gym in the evening. One of the days I'll be on track at least. One of the days I'll smash myself on turbo, and the rest of it I'll be out on the road, just getting sort of steady miles in. So the way your sort of cycling fitness is built up is you'll have a base fitness. So the bigger the base and the steady stuff you do, then the higher the peak can be. If you like, think of a layer cake, the bigger the base, the higher you.
And do you plan that like on paper, or do you?
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. It's all broken down to within an inch of its life.
And do you do that, or do you work with a training?
I've got a great coach, Jon Gildea at British Cycling, and then we've got I've like a core working group of a physiologist, a performance analyst, a physio, and John. That between us, it's quite nice, really, because everyone's got their input. And the good thing from my point of view is, you know, it means I can buy into I can get all the information off them and buy into it and crack on. Okay. And then I tend to work in a 6-week block so that I can, you know, see what I can achieve off this block, give it a tick, maybe have a bit of a rest time or whatever, downtime, and then go again for the next 6 weeks.
Are they quite flexible with how much you adopt of that plan and that style, or is it like very regimented?
No, it's an agreement. Really,
it's agreement
because there's no. I know
everyone's got to be different, right?
Well, yeah, completely, and because I suppose once you get to the point where you're putting your world champions jersey on, by that point you start to know what you've got a good idea what makes you successful.
Okay.
So you're not. You know, and other people's ideas, you know, to get someone like a performance analyst or a physiologist to kind of, you know, to ask them to, right, where can you save me a few seconds? And they go, right, okay, I think you'll save a few seconds if you do this.
Wow.
Well, you're going to be like, right, okay, well, cool. If they explain it to you and you believe it, you know, you're not, there's never really a battle from that point of view. And, you know, I think, it's good, really, because your interests are aligned, aren't you? You want success. Happy days.
So Team GB cycling has been.
So it's British cycling.
British cycling. Sorry for that. They've been really successful the last few years. What is that? What would you say, in your opinion, that's down to? Is it because of this team?
Probably
the process of the
probably
team?
The full-on system, and you know that they've got in place, and the kind of legacy and the kind of pathway that they're on. You know, they've got like it's a bit of a success factory, isn't it, in terms of the way they do things. So it goes all the way back to sort of the 90s when Chris Boardman won at the Olympics, and then and then Jason Queally, and they started off the British cycling sort of intake system, and then they got some lottery funding, and then and then it kind of goes on and on and on. And bizarrely, I kind of, before the lottery funding was when I was cycling. So if that program had existed when I was a junior, I'd have probably gone over to track cycling, to be honest, and done that.
Oh, right.
But Bradley Wiggins and sort of his lot were probably the first intake of that. And it's a few years younger. He's probably, I don't know, 38 now or something like that.
Wow.
So that was, that whole kind of. They learn over those years. They learn what success looks like, and
isn't it amazing that from what you just described there, from Chris Boardman doing what he's done, that can be the catalyst to then this big thing.
It's amazing.
How cool is that? That's
it's
so
amazing.
cool,
Well, the other thing is, you think about lottery funding, the difference it's made to sport as well, across multi-sport, across the board is I don't know if there's any measurements you can put on it, but it's, we live in a completely different sort of world in terms of the access to sort of multi-sports now, and what's in place for for athletes, in terms of the way they can train full time with equipment wise and otherwise, and so we've got an incredible facility, in the velodrome there, and we've got pretty much everything you'd need to be successful is provided, and all the expertise is there.
Right.
So
and the legacy to build on to kind of give you the encouragement.
Absolutely,
this is possible.
The coaching staff have been, some of them have been riders, and you've got other riders helping the other riders, and you know that behind you there'll be other riders, and you can. The good thing is, from a para perspective, I'll be on track with. When Jason Kenny's on track, and and all they're probably a big name you can think of, but all the big names, girls and guys, there's a good sort of ethos that I'll train with. Well, a lot of the sort of AB squad on I'll go for a ride with them, and if they're out, and so it's really cool. It is a strange old one, going into the velodrome, swiping my card, and going to the bit where no one can go, and kind of walking around with these people, and kind of, it's very normalised. And then sometimes, every now and then, I'll be out of it, and I'll be watching something on TV, and they'll be on there, and I'll think, oh wow,
What's it like to see yourself on TV and be on the podium and all the medals you've won?
Yeah, it's the
accolades. I mean, is it quite surreal? You strike me as a type where you don't really think of yourself that.
No, not really. Not so much. I don't know. I don't know whether. I don't know whether you want to be. Whether you want your head above the parapet. Do you want people to know who you are? Do you want to? Do you want to be sort of known or not? I kind of wrestle with it, really, because it's. It's nice if you can kind of something positive can come out of it, for other people. But I always feel a bit like. I'm much more comfortable doing something like this than I am stood in front of an audience, for example, and speaking, because I feel a bit sort of coy about it, or a bit kind of embarrassed, really, kind of putting myself out there. So I think it's the same. I don't feel too. If it's a camera, that's fine. It's like being a kid in it, messing around. That's fine. Yeah. Or this is cool, having a conversation like this. But if if it was a matter of right, okay, now you're in front of everyone, it'd be a bit like
It's scary, right?
So I don't know what'll happen. Hopefully I'll get to the games next year. But what that'll bring with it in terms of exposure, hopefully it will be positive. I suppose that's the thing, you don't want any kind of negative kind of connotations to it, and you read a lot about where it becomes negative, and you think
how could it be negative?
I don't know really, whether it be people, if you're known on Twitter and people start taking
you'll always get that. I
don't know whether I want to be out there to even get it in the first place.
We get a lot of stick.
Do you?
Yeah, we get a lot of stick, specifically from people who think we're trying to somehow compete against cycling. There's a lot of people
that just jump on that and start giving it grief.
But it's just this Facebook and Twitter. It's just the way it is.
Oh dear me!
It's just keyboard warriors got nothing better to do.
Does it do you edit? I mean, is it one of those?
Not really. Sometimes you can be like, I wish to just give it a break. I wouldn't mind if we were intentionally trying to say, this.
Do you feel like you have to defend yourself with it as
Well,
well?
what's cool is when our community defend us.
That's
like when
better,
they jump on and they're
so.
like, "Hey, man, like relax," like, and if there is something that's particularly kind of, I don't know, rude or aggressive, we just always go back with the same thing. It's like, look, it's all right to be different. We're not trying to compete. We're just doing our thing. We live in a diverse world.
I suppose in a way, like
Relax.
if you've got if you've got your business there as well, and it's a brand, I suppose all publicity is publicity. I think the thing with it, when it's just you and you're kind of doing it for. I mean, go back to the drivers. I mean, the only other I didn't mention. I mean, my old man died during this kind of. This kind of resurgence. So that was my other drive. He obviously took me to all the bike races as a kid, and he got diagnosed with really aggressive cancer. Probably was about a year into this cycling escapade.
What year was this then?
This will be probably
like
2000, end of 13, I'd say.
Okay.
And he got diagnosed with only a very short time to live. So we expected that he wouldn't be around very long at all. And then he sort of exceeded all expectations, and he lasted for a few years. So he was around to watch all of. He was around when I won the World Championships.
Oh, wow.
So cool. that was mega. So in 2017, but he eventually, he couldn't kind of go on forever. So he unfortunately died. But we had some mega times. The whole time he was having chemo, I was going around to his house as well, and he had an electric mountain bike at the time. So we were going mountain biking even though he was having chemotherapy and stuff. And I was training. He was sort of fighting for what he was fighting for, to stay alive. So we were both sort of. There's a lot of parallels in terms of the way we were kind of. He was sort of like he's treating it like it was like sport. So he managed his health like I managed mine, and so it was. It was pretty mega. The mind over matter thing, in the mind and body thing, the way he kind of was able to manage that was incredible. So
did he talk about that? Did he talk about like what we just discussed, like adversity, the mental strength? Yeah,
big time. I was constantly on his case as well. To be honest, there was. We got to a point where in 2017 where he got sent home from Christie's, and they said they couldn't do anything for him anymore, and He kind of went home to die, if you like. So we had Macmillan nurses coming out to his house and stuff like that. And we got to the point where, to be honest, the end of life team were sort of milling around in the house, and he was expected to go any day. And he kind of came round a little bit, which was completely unexpected. So literally that night they expected him to die. The next day he was sort of conscious, but by then he couldn't really eat or drink or whatever, so it was like drinking from a beaker and stuff like that. And I went round and saw him, and I was like, right, Dad? And he was like, all right. I thought, oh right, he's talking. So it was quite a sunny day outside, and I was saying I've been on my bike and blah blah blah, and he was like, yeah, I want to go on my bike. I was like, all right, okay. And everyone was sort of still talking to him like he was sort of a goner, and he was a bit of a space cadet, but I realised he wasn't. Right. And he was sort of kind of expressing the thing of like, bored, off, whatever else. So I said, oh, do you want to get up? And he was like, yeah, I want to get up, yeah. So I helped him get up, and we went and sat in the lounge, and there was like a nurse milling around in the house at the time, and the few bits of the family, my mum, my sister and stuff like that, and my brother-in-law, and they were like, what? And he got up from the lounge, he went to the loo himself, and he came back down and sat down. Anyway, he was talking about he really wants to go on his bike and whatever, and I thought, well, that's unrealistic, but what we'll try and do is if he's kind of coming around a little bit, it was his birthday. I thought we'll take him and push him around the local water park. So we got him in his wheelchair, and we pushed him around the local water park, but it was all a bit doom and gloomy, and oh, nice one. But I've seen my mum push him around, and I thought, oh, this is horrible. And all he went on to me is, oh, I want to go on my bike, I want to go on my bike, I want to go on my bike. And I knew it was futile, it was ridiculous. But I went out that night, I was a bit fed up, and I went to Sale, and I got a bit drunk with my mate, and I thought, I'm going to take him on his bike. I thought if he dies on his bike, it doesn't matter, does it?
No.
If he's going to die anyway, I'll just take him on his bike. So I phoned up my mum the next morning. I said, right, Dad wants to go on his bike. I think I should take him on his bike. I'll put the bike in the car. I'll take him to his local water park, which is in Swinton, and we'll go for a ride. So she put him on the phone to him, and he wasn't really with it. I was like, you want to go on your bike then? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh shit. Okay, so I went round there, and he was sat in his lounge, full cycling kit on, could barely hold himself up. But I was like, right, okay. So I kind of half carried him to the car, got his bike in the car, and we got to this little water park, and I said to him, right, stay in the car. I'll get your bike out. I'll get your bike through the gate. We'll get you on your bike and you get going. Anyway, got his bike out of the car, and he was stood outside the car, and he was already, because he had no, his body wasn't producing any red blood cells or anything. Well, like he was in a right state. So he was like leaning against the car, and I was thinking, oh no, what am I doing? But anyway, I carried him to his bike. I put him on his bike. We rode off down this thing, and because it was power assisted, he was pedaling along, and the bike was doing the bit for him.
And he had his own balance himself.
Yeah, barely though. And I was like, at one point, I had to catch him because he was just drifting off. Right. And then so we got to the first gate, and he was sort of blacking out. So I picked him up and I sat him down on the grass. But he was quite wasted away by that point, so I could just kind of put him on the grass. Yeah. And I thought, because we'd had this chat, if he dies on his bike, he dies on his bike, and that was at the moment I thought, oh no. Like if he does actually die on his bike, what we're gonna do? Like if he dies now. Was
it just you two?
Yeah, it's just me and him. I'd not really thought it through like that, but because I thought you think about my mind was like, oh my God, like, I kind of feeling it physically, as well. So
of course.
So I put him down on the floor. I was like, he's gonna flipping die here. But anyway, I was like, you're right, Dad. He was like, yeah. And the thing with it was his body wouldn't recover. So it was like, he just kind of had to gather himself, and I kind of again picked him up. I got a picture of him when I was riding, and anyway, got him back on his bike. And we stopped 3 or 4 times around the lake where I kept thinking he was going to die, and he didn't. And he ended up riding back to near where the car was, and he just fell over on a fence, and I managed to get him off his bike and sit down. I legged it as best I could do, sort of limping back to the car, got his wheelchair out, got back, put him in his wheelchair, and I thought, I'm sure like it ruined me mentally, but he was still alive and he'd done it, and he was like in the car on the way back. I thought that's a massive result. And I was talking to him, I was saying, it was really, really good, Dad, nice. When he said, oh yeah, it's just a bit annoying, isn't it? He said, I'd like to get out again, and then we could maybe get out a few of us, and we could do this, and we could do that, and we could do the other. And I was thinking, yeah, nice one, Dad, good one. But, just paying lip service, which everyone had done, because he'd been going on about going on his bike again for ages, even though he was, supposed to be dying. And anyway, I got a phone call from my mum that night, and he was still awake at 10 o'clock at night, and he'd had a few fish and chips, and he'd started to kind of come round. And over the next few days, he started to do a bit more, and he'd gone to the shop with my mum, and then he'd gone round to someone's house, and he'd done this, that, and then I got a phone call from mum saying he's gone on his bike. And I thought she was joking. He went on his bike, and he ended up going and doing his local ride. And he actually rode from his house in Swinton up to the top of Winter Hill.
Wow!
And then back.
Really?
And then he just had a complete resurgence. Like he sort of built on that one ride, and he just had a complete resurgence.
No way.
So this was May, and then my mum ended up having to focus. Because Macmillan said we can't come around anymore. And like the end of life team were like, what are we doing? Because my dad was like, putting his cycle kit on, going out the door, and they were thinking he was supposed to be dying. Like, and there was no medical kind of explanation for it. His body kind of started to play ball a little bit.
Wow.
So Mum had to phone up Christie's and say, yeah, what's going on here? So they gave him a little bit more treatment, and he ended up lasting until the December of that year. But my part was to I felt like it was like
you took him out, which month, sorry?
I took him out in May.
In May? And then May. All the way till December?
Yeah. And we were going to trail centres though. By the end of the year, we got to the point where like a couple of weeks later, he was coming around to my house, shivering, and even though it was sunny, like in a mess, but he was so he was clear looking like that. But he went from looking like that to looking sort of semi-normal.
Wow.
And even down to, I was telling the guys at British Cycling about this, and they were saying, how's your dad doing? I was like, it's unbelievable what he's doing and whatever. And then my dad just walks past on the way to Evans Cycles to go and buy himself some new mud guards. I was like, oh, there he is. It was unbelievable. But there was a real element of like my kind of faith in him. Was like I literally must have like the equivalent of me just going, right, there's some of me, off you go.
Totally.
And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So It was good. It was good as well in there, because he kept defying doctors what they were saying. They were telling him stuff, and I was like, we already know what they're talking about. There's no bearing on you, because you're that's nothing to do with, if that's the average, that's nothing to do with you. That it's not, So and he was cool with that. So that was. It was mega, that journey. And I still got, there's no overhang. Obviously, once he died, the only downer with it was I knew that he didn't really want to die. And he would have ideally liked to have carried on. But, and ironically, what had happened is he'd gone out on his electric bike, gone to Landegler, and his battery had run out. And he had to push his bike the rest of the way and then ended up getting a bit of an infection. And that was it. That's all, a bit of something was enough that, that it carried on. And, unfortunately, he died. And so... that's been tough. The grief of that's been tough, but it was an amazing. It was incredible to be fair.
Incredible.
It was it was absolutely amazing. Particularly, he was just dying in bed, and it was like, I want to go on a bike, and then it was like, right,
come on,
but let's do it. And from going from that kind of, oh my God. Push, going around the water park and him going in the car, we'll do this, that, and the other. I was like, yeah.
We did every past you go to buy wood guards and everything.
Yeah, but we were going to Landegler and we were going to like trail centres and whatever. We did a lot of mountain biking that year. Once it kind of, we kind of went up over a few months, and that was it. Then we're out a lot.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. So yeah, it's obviously that's the kind of relationship with my dad. It's a complicated thing, but there's obviously a big driver to for me and my kind of my aspirations to go to the Paralympics, but then just in life, like I'm going mountain biking, I'm a lad. It's no, there's no, there's no secret that you don't have to put two and two together. My driver's behind that. When I had that same relationship with my dad, I'm absolutely like chomping at the bit to make sure I get that quality time that he had with me, with my lad as well, because it's you don't know what's going to happen here.
You don't, and it's that bigger picture stuff, right? What ultimately matters.
Yeah, definitely. So, a bit of
those memories and the relationships that we have with
So going back to in terms of my motivation for. None of my motivation for doing any of this was to be a personality, if you like, or to be sort of out there. So, we talk about like that, kind of, if there's a positive thing that can come from it, or somebody can take something from it, or whatever, then that's really good. But I don't. Whereas with your business, and it's the same with my business, I've got a vested interest, I suppose, in making it, to publicise it. Yeah. But when it comes to just me, it's just me, innit? Yeah. So I don't. The kind of conflict about like, well, do you want to be famous? I don't. Do you want to be out there? I don't know really. None of my drivers are that. Then they're not like. Whereas you can see other people have, clearly thinking, right, well, okay, if I can do this, I'll get that, I'll get the other. Yeah. My business is my business, and I've, there's plenty I can do with that, but it doesn't involve me being out there and being at, front and center kind of as a personality. I don't know there's any real value in that. Yep. And I'm conflicted in terms of where, what that looks like, because it's nice. It's great.
There's enough of them out there.
Yeah, it was great to share experiences, definitely. But in terms of like, it's hard, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah. I think in some ways I'm quite similar. I don't have an ambition to be famous or to be put on a spotlight.
If you could make a difference though, if something could come from it, then that's very different, isn't it?
Well, that's why we call this podcast Positive Change Through Design, Innovation, Technology. It's about trying to explore those stories where there is a positive difference. Because there's too much on the other side. Like when it comes to sport, I mean. We talked before about how great the lottery funding's been. The rhetoric you normally hear is there's no funding, there's not enough funding, it's underfunded, and you don't really ever hear the other side too much.
Well,
and that's why this platform's good, because you never get a chance to have a long form conversation.
No,
it's always increasingly. Just whether it's clickbait or whether it's just an instant thing in the scroll, or it's the headline to keep up the reviews and the viewership on the BBC or ITN, whatever news platform you watch. It's increasingly harder to have an authentic, original representation of what actually happens out there.
This is why this is such a good medium.
It's awesome.
It's
awesome, isn't it?
So you talk about innovation, then. So we were checking out some of what's going on. In your place. So you've got a carbon Swifty.
Well, that's why we're here in this room, because we're working with trying to put graphene into the scooter.
Amazing.
But yeah,
and that was graphene was actually invented in Manchester, wasn't it?
In Manchester, yeah. That's why this lovely building exists, is because of the legacy of that discovery.
Amazing.
Which is fabulous. I mean, when this podcast goes out, I think the previous podcast, which was interviewing the guys here and talking about graphene, it was such a remarkable conversation. I mean, the whole idea of kind of like a lead pencil has got graphene in it, and that has had such a huge impact on the world. And
it's just at the beginning as well, isn't it? Really,
just the beginning, and starting to see it go into industry and become something that is affordable in terms of giving value to the qualities it can produce, so making things lighter, stronger, faster, smoother, whatever it is, and being a commercial option for someone to put in there. It's starting to get traction. That's really exciting.
Nice.
And that's just one discovery. Like these guys here, that they're trying to make all different types of discoveries with it's one atom thick. And it just blows your mind. Like I must have sounded so daft last week in the podcast because I didn't understand most of it. It's like you're trying to grapple with, we design big lumps of metal that are shaped in a particular shape, and then these guys are designing at a molecular scale, and it's like, what? You can't even see it.
Yeah, a bit over technical for me, I reckon. But looking at the
carbon Swifty,
carbon Swifty's pimp. We're talking about
cool,
things
right?
like tubeless tyres and stuff like
great
that. You can
ideas.
put a chuck on there, Kevlar tyres. I'm thinking about some of the cycling stuff that you could put on it, but it's already got there's a bit of a crossover there. You've got like you've got the obviously the carbon frame. You've got hydraulic brakes on it. You've got like loads of bits of innovation on there. It's great to see some of that stuff. The electric had a mooch around an electric Swifty as well. Nearly ran into all your stuff there because I kind of rode off around the factory a little bit there, but yeah, that's really smart as well.
Nice, right?
Should
we try and finish off a little bit with like what you've done with us and how Swifty's kind of like been part of what you do and everything? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've had the Swifty Air for 3 years now, something like that. Yeah. I think. I mean, for me, obviously, it's a brilliant toy to mess around on. It's got that kind of mountain biking kind of snowboarding kind of crossover kind of feeling. Essentially, you're riding it, aren't you? Which is what I like to do. I think with me with foot drop, I'm not particularly good walker, and sometimes I will struggle quite badly walking. So it sort of doubles up as I'll mess around on it and have a crack with it and take it camping and whatever and find something to go and ride down and jump off or whatever. But at the same time, if I'm struggling walking, it's a great sort of tool for me to get around with. So it's been a good one with the family and with the dogs and whatever to go and to try and save my legs a little bit when I'm out and about. But it's brilliant.
Yeah, we've got a few. Also amputees as well who we work with. I don't know if you've seen those guys, but it's been fascinating to hear one particular case. Polly, shout out to Polly. In her case, she's an above knee amputee, and her I think you call it the cast that goes on, or the socket. Sorry, the socket that goes on. Normally they have to be replaced quite regular, because the muscle just atrophies over time. There's nothing you can do. However, in her case, because she's been scooting, her muscle hasn't atrophied. It stayed the same size.
It's getting a bit of a workout.
Yeah, because when she scoots, she stands with her normal leg is on the foot plate, and then she scoots with her prosthetic. And she's pretty lucky. She's got an electric assisted one, so it gives her a bit of a boost. But what it does is it allows her prosthetic leg to have a little bit of a rest, so that it's not pushing on the stump or on her tailbone. That's where the socket rests to support the leg. And because she's not got that pressure, she can be out and active longer. One thing that we didn't realise with a lot of amputees with prosthetics is that you can only be in your leg for so long before it just gets too painful. And this allows her to have extended periods of activity. So
perfect. I mean, for me,
she can train longer.
Obviously, high impact on me is just not an option. I can't. It's weird because I can jump quite high, but I couldn't jump. Like I could jump on the table quite easy. I couldn't jump off the table. My leg would fold. You know what I mean? Because my knees just not, it's not got the kind of integrity to kind of do anything sort of high impact. But obviously it's very low impact on the Swifty. So it's something else I can do as well. Without it impacting me. Certain times my knees a bit, it can be sketchy when it comes to walking. So it's a really good, it's good to have that sort of outlet really, rather than having to, jump on a bike as well, because it's not feasible that I can, if we're going to go for a walk with a family, that I'm going to start riding around on a bike at the side of them. That's just not, it's not. So and again, it's a way of just kind of it being, keeping it inclusive without it being like a thing.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
It just blends in, right?
Yeah, it's just, it's fine, isn't it? Yeah, happy days.
That's cool, man.
So yeah, it's all good.
Oh, good. Well, it's been a pleasure to speak to you and hear a bit more about the story.
Thanks so much for having me as well. Yeah, it's been
cool.
It's been a good crack.
Wish you all the best with your road to Tokyo. I hope you get selected. We'll be rooting for you.
Cheers, yeah.
I'm sure you'll smash it.
Yeah, I'll come back on if I do. Otherwise, I'm just going to hide.
Yeah, no,
I'll just hide somewhere.
No, you'll be successful whatever you do. I know you will be. I know you will be. So yeah, please come in and we'll recap and let these guys know.
Nice one. Right,
cheers,
mate.
Cheers. Awesome.
Nice one.
Right.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. All the usuals. Please like, subscribe, and share. What are your social tags? Do you want people to follow?
Yeah, I'm just at Jon Gildea. It's Gildea, and I've got Jon Gildea Paracyclist on Facebook. If you want to give us a follow on there. I'm on Instagram probably more actually.
Okay.
Biker John G, but you'll find me if you'll find me on yours anyway.
We'll put the links at the bottom of the video, also on iTunes, on YouTube. So please give John a follow and support him on his road to Tokyo, hopefully. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.